we have certain inkling that what should be there. Even philosophically, people think about idealism. People think about utopian theories. Those theories may look like impossible, but we have certain inspiration to think about it. But still it is not complete or not up to the mark because of limited thinking of our limitedness of our intellect. As we grow old, our ideas also grow. But still it is not complete. Therefore, we need an ideal who can show us the path. Therefore, God incarnates himself. And when we see that life, all our so-called idealistic thoughts seems like a small fry, small portion of that which is depicted by an incarnation. Why it is so? It is because truth is not surpassable. It is like sun. In brilliance, no one can surpass sun. Truth, as we think, as we try to cultivate within ourselves, and as we grow, our thoughts also grow. It keeps on growing. But you cannot surpass. You cannot overcome truth. Truth is such that how much you grow, truths also seem to grow further and further. Therefore, when God incarnates in a human being, as we grow, we find greater things in that character. And this is very important. Swami Vivekananda was told, if you try to depict your ideas, and if you try to portray the incarnation according to your mind, you will seem to make an image of a monkey, as it were, trying to depict Shiva, Shiv Gorte Badar Gora. Therefore, he never tried to portray Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, in short life, in short lifespan, he lived an idea which is unthinkable, unsurpassable. So that is why we must cultivate the life of Sri Ramakrishna. And we'll find as we grow, these ideas also will grow. But it will never happen that you can surpass that. Because truth cannot be surpassed. As the brilliance of sun cannot be surpassed by any mortal bodies. Similarly, ordinary human being may think high thoughts, but it never can surpass truth. So with this introduction, let us go back to the life of Sri Ramakrishna, the divine life, and his divine sports. When he came, he did not descended alone, but he brought his retinue. And among them, the chief retinue was Swami Vivekananda. The previous name of Swami Vivekananda is Narendranath Datta. Now, this is another factor that, when we see a beautiful garden, we want to see what is the surrounding, because we also want to know what is the nourishing factor, how this garden was built, who built it. Similarly, a character, when a society projects a character, that means there must be some inherent character within. And that we find in the life of Narendranath, because he also had a wonderful ambience, wonderful circumstances, where he took various ideas from, and he grew and flourished. That is what we call Swami Vivekananda. So we are studying that portion where the life of Narendranath is depicted, narrated, and here the background of Narendranath is spoken. So this is very important, because if someone wants to grow, he must be supported by his environment, by his family background. Not only we have our inherent qualities, but to flourish those qualities, we must have a supporting environment. Then only we grow. This we can find, when a twin is born, one we can put in a best environment and one in a bad environment. We'll see how the same twin brothers or sisters may adopt different qualities. It is because of upbringing. So here we find what was those factors for the life of Narendranath. Is Paul there?
Yes, Swami.
Yes.
What page are we on, Swami?
Can you read?
What page are we on?
Page 766.
Okay. One sec. So, okay, almost got it. Okay, is it 30? Narendra's grandfather was a monk?
Correct.
Okay. 30. Narendra's grandfather was a monk. We shall conclude this chapter by giving a brief account of Narendra's ancestry. The Dutta family, with all its various branches, was one of the ancient dynasties of Calcutta.
Wait without me.
Among the middle-class Kayastha caste, this family was foremost in wealth, learning, and social status. Ramohan Dutta, Narendra's great-grandfather, was a lawyer. He made a great deal of money and led a dignified life with his big family at Gaur Mohan Mukherjee Street in Simla. His son, Durga Charan, inherited great wealth from his father, but he developed a dispassion for the world at an early age and became a monk later in life. It is said that from his boyhood onward, he was very devoted to monks and holy people. When he reached his youth, his monastic tendency kept him engaged in studying the scriptures and soon made him a scholar. Although he married, Durgacharan was not attached to his family. He spent much of his time in his own garden with holy company.
Please, yeah.
Keep going.
Just a minute, just a minute. Yes, please.
Narendra said that his grandfather left home forever shortly after a son was born, thus fulfilling the injunction of the scriptures. Although he left home, Durgacharan twice saw his wife and relatives briefly by the will of Providence. When his son, Vishwanath, was 2 or 3 years old, Durgacharan's wife and relatives went to Varanasi, perhaps in search of him, and stayed there for some time. There was no railroad in those days, so wealthy people went on pilgrimage to Varanasi by boat, and Durgacharan's wife joined a group of pilgrims. On the way, Vishwanath fell into the Ganges. When his mother saw this, she jumped into the river to save him, although she could not swim. After a great effort, both were rescued.
Yes, go ahead.
People saw that the unconscious mother still had a firm hold on her son's hand. Thus, Vishwanath's life was saved by the limitless love of his mother. After arriving in Varanasi, Durgacharan's wife visited the Vishwanath temple every day. One day it was raining and the street was slippery, and she fell in front of the temple. A monk passing by saw this and rushed to her. He carefully lifted her up, made her sit on the step of the temple, and began to examine her to see if she was seriously injured. The moment their eyes met, Durgacharan and his wife recognized each other. The all-renouncing monk Durgacharan fled without looking at her for a second time. The scriptures say that after embracing the monastic life for 12 years, a monk should visit his birthplace, which is superior even to heaven. So Durgacharan returned to Calcutta after 12 years and stayed at the house of a former friend. He fervently asked him not to tell his relatives that he had come. Durgacharan's worldly friend disregarded this request and secretly sent word to his relatives. The entire family came immediately and forced him to return home, where he was confined to one room. He remained seated silently in a corner of that room like a log, his eyes closed. It is said that he remained in that position continuously for 3 days and nights. His relatives became fearful that he might fast unto death, so they unlocked the door. The next day, they realized that Durgacharan had slipped away from the house unnoticed. Keep going.
Yeah, there was the computer got disconnected. So could you kindly say after arriving in Varanasi from there?
Okay. After arriving in Varanasi, Durgacharan's wife visited the Vishwanath temple every day. That's where we're at. I mean, I'm going back. One day it was raining and the street was slippery, and she fell in front of the temple. A monk passing by saw this and rushed to her. He carefully lifted her up, made her sit on the step of the temple, and began to examine her to see if she was seriously injured. The moment their eyes met, Durgacharan and his wife recognized each other. The all-renouncing monk, Durgacharan, fled without looking at her for a second time. The scriptures say that after embracing the monastic life for 12 years, a monk should visit his birthplace, which is superior even to heaven. So Durgacharan returned to Calcutta after 12 years and stayed at the house of a former friend. He fervently asked him not to tell his relatives that he had come. Durgacharan's worldly friend disregarded this request and secretly sent word to his relatives. The entire family came immediately and forced him to return home, where he was confined to one room. He remained seated silently in a corner of that room like a log, his eyes closed. It is said that he remained in that position continuously for 3 days and nights. His relatives became fearful that he might fast unto death, so they unlocked the door. The next day, they realized that Durgacharan had slipped away from the house unnoticed.
So this is nothing much to explain. This is a tradition that when one chooses to a monastic life, he returns to his native place after 12 years. So he returned, but he was not attached. So this is the life of Narendra's grandfather, who was a monk. Yeah, go ahead.
31. Narendra's father, Vishwanath. As Vishwanath grew up, he became well versed in Persian and English, and ultimately became an attorney of the Calcutta High Court. He was extremely generous and affectionate with his friends. Although he earned a good deal of money, he was unable to save any of it. Vishwanath had inherited his father's character and could not save money or spend wisely. In many respects, Vishwanath's nature was not like that of ordinary householders. He never worried about the future. He helped anyone without considering whether they were worthy of it. And although he was affectionate, he was also dispassionate. Even when he was far from home for a long time, he was not anxious to hear from his family. Many things like this can be said about him.
Right. So here we see the father, the life of Narendranath's father, Vishwanath Datta. So this is the tradition. Naturally, in that family, Narendra came. So that is why it is very important to be parent. Parenthood is not simple. One should prepare for that right from the childhood. A good family is not accidental, rather, it is cultivable. So it happens, whatever characters are inculcated by parents, that is transferred to the children. That is why nowadays there is an experiment is going on. Like those pregnant mothers, they are keeping silence, and also they are doing some penance so that they can beget good children. So this is not accidental, rather this can be cultivated. And we find that where there is a situation which is conducive for the coming soul, he will be born there, he or she will be born there where such conducive environment is available. Therefore, parenthood is not that simple. Rather, one should prepare for that. And this is proven factor. It's not that just we are saying this happened in past, and this also is happening in present. And some families are doing, even I saw in newspapers, some Jain families, they are strictly observing various religious rituals. And that is why we have, in Hindu Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, there is Garbhadhan. So some rituals are there. And also when a child comes, there are some rituals that those are to be performed. So all this is to uplift and also to welcome a better soul in our family. It's not just begetting a child. So here we find the important characteristic of the father of Narendranath. And that is why Narendra was born in that family. Yes.
32. Vishwanath's love for music. Vishwanath was intelligent and gifted. He loved music and the fine arts. Narendra later said that his father had a sweet voice and that he could sing Nidhu Babu's tapa, light songs, beautifully, even though he had no formal training. Vishwanath considered music to be a harmless amusement, so he arranged for his eldest son, Narendra, to learn music along with his regular studies. His wife, Bhuvaneshwari, was able to master devotional songs, including their tune, measure, and tempo, after hearing them sung only once by Vaishnava minstrels and beggars.
So here, Narendranath also was a good singer. So nowadays people will explain that it is because of DNA. So it is in the DNA, but that DNA is only a vehicle. But actually it is the nature. And also when a child is being raised in a family, he adopts many traits from that family. It is possible that some DNA is also changed accordingly, but it's more environmental. So some is because of the heritage, and some other are because of that's environmental factor. So is a where we see a musician's children will always listen music. So right from childhood, their ears are tuned. This happened to a great ustad. So he used to play sitar, and his grandchild would be lying near him. So one of our Swami went to his place and asked, Ustadji, this is very cold morning, and you are practicing your sitar, instrumental music. And what this boy is doing here? Then that artist explained, Swamiji, it has great significance. Why? Because his ears are being trained. So this is the reason. And we have heard the story of many jatakas. When they are in the womb of mother, they learn something. And then similarly, his life is ordained. So this is a factor which can be attributed to DNA, but also can be attributed to the environment. Yeah. Next.
33. The influence of Muslim manners and customs on Vishwanath. Vishwanath was fond of reading the Bible and also of reciting the couplets of the Persian mystic poet Hafiz. Every day, he read 1 or 2 chapters of Jesus' holy life from the Bible. Sometimes he would read to his wife and sons stories about Jesus and the mystical love poems of Hafiz. Because his work as an attorney often took him to Lucknow, Lahore, and other places in northwestern India where people were mainly Muslim, he became fond of some of their manners and customs. Perhaps for this reason, the custom of serving pilaf at the dinner table every day was introduced in the Dutta family.
So Hafiz Bait, the poetry of Hafiz, and not only that, Muslim traditions also was given to Narendranath because of the influence of his father. Yeah. Next.
34. Vishwanath's sense of humor. Vishwanath was calm and serious, but also witty and humorous. If any of his sons and daughters misbehaved, he did not discipline them with harsh language, but instead let their friends know what they had done in such a way that his children were ashamed and never did it again. For example, one day in the course of an argument with his mother, Narendra used rude words to her. When Vishwanath heard about this, he did not scold his son directly. Instead, he wrote with charcoal in large letters above the door of the room where Narendra received his friends. Today, Naren Babu spoke to his mother as follows, adding the words that he had used. Whenever Narendra and his friends entered that room, their eyes fell on those words. For a long time afterwards, Narendra felt terribly embarrassed by his rudeness.
Yeah, it's like this humorous way of teaching. And Swami Vivekananda also, he was very jovial. When he came to the West, people were amazed that how a spiritual person is always laughing and enjoying. And they also complained, why, Swami, you are all the time in light mood? Then Swamiji explained, yes, I also feel, my face also is grave when I have some dysentery or something, some physical ailment. So he used to give various names, like Girish Chandra, he used to tell GC or similar. So there is a book, Sahasya Vivekananda, like Smiling Vivekananda. There are all the incidents are collected where the incidents that happened and how Swami Vivekananda used to interact with people, so that the various philosophical and even difficult matters were solved in a lighter lighter vein. So that's why Swamiji also got this character from his father. Yeah. Next.
35. Vishwanath Generosity. Vishwanath maintained a large family that included many distant relatives, lavishly spending money on food and other necessities. Some of those relatives wasted their lives in laziness, and others indulged in drugs and alcohol. When Narendra grew older, he reproached his father for supporting those worthless people. Vishwanath replied, "How can you now understand the great misery of human life? When you feel the depth of their suffering, you will sympathize with the unfortunate ones who are trying to forget their sorrows, even for a moment, by using intoxicants."
That's why Swamiji also inculcated this trait. He never found faults with even drug addicts, because he knew how difficult this world is. Rather, he wanted to give a helping hand to them. It happened in his school days. One of his teacher was addicted to hemp, and then he tolerated, but he took that chance to help a student, and he told that teacher that if you don't help this boy, then I'll make your habit public. So this way we find that though he had compassion, he had some feeling of compassion for him, but he took that chance to help a poor boy. Yeah. Next.
36. Vishwanath's death. Vishwanath had several sons and daughters, all of them endowed with noble qualities. Most of his daughters died young. Narendra was born after 3 or 4 daughters, so he was very dear to his parents. In the winter of 1883, as Narendra was preparing for his BA examination, his father had a heart attack and died. Vishwanath's sudden death plunged his wife and children into dire poverty. 37. Narendra's mother. We have heard many things about the greatness of Bhuvaneshwari, Narendra's mother. Not only was she extremely beautiful and deeply devout, She was also very intelligent and efficient in running the household. She shouldered all of the responsibility for her husband's large family. She managed the household so easily and effectively that she had spare time to sew, sing, and enjoy other pursuits. Although her education was very limited, she had not gone any further than reading the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. She learned many things by listening to her husband and children. When one conversed with her, one felt that she was an educated woman. She had a prodigious memory and a great power of understanding. She could repeat anything after hearing it only once, and she remembered everything that she had heard of or experienced long ago as though it had taken place the day before.
Yeah, Narendra had great respect for his mother, and he said, whatever good trait that I have, and Narendra had, those he attributed to his mother. When he was mere a child, he used to listen the stories of Mahabharata and Ramayana from his mother. And he was greatly influenced by her. Even once it happened that he was beaten by his teacher for some mistake that he did not commit. And when he came back from the school, and when Narendra told his mother said, never mind. But if you have not done that, even if the whole world goes against you, but stick to that. So these are the incidents by which we understand the influence of the parents. And as we have heard about Vishwanath, that he was non-attached. He was not attached with money, etc. That's why when he passed away, he left a debt for the family, because he used to spend lavishly and for the benefit of others. So these are the qualities which were later expressed in the life of Narendranath. Before he passed away, he had a little money with him, and he inquired about many monks. And he asked, do you have mosquito curtain or this, that, simple things? And when he heard that that monk did not have, immediately he gave money and he asked someone to buy for that. So all this indicates that even before passing away, he was so generous. He used to weep for poor. It's because of that feeling for others. He used to tell, feel for others, feel for downtrodden. So all these were naturally because it is all these qualities are from his parents, though he had inherently, but these were also supported by his parents. Yeah, next.
When she was in deep poverty after her husband's death, she developed patience, perseverance, courage, and other noble qualities. Before her husband's death, she had 1,000 rupees a month with which to maintain the household. Now she had to maintain herself and her children on 30 rupees a month. Despite this predicament, she was never disheartened. She managed her little family with that meager income so efficiently that people assumed her monthly allotment to be much higher than it was. One feels terrible when one considers the pitiable condition that Bhuvaneshwari found herself in after her husband's death. She had no guaranteed income with which to maintain the family, but she nonetheless had to support her mother and children who had been brought up in opulence, and she had to meet the children's educational expenses. Instead of helping her, the relatives who had been making good money with her husband's assistance now took the opportunity to attempt to deprive her of her legitimate right to her property and possessions. Although her eldest son, Narendra, had many good qualities, he could not find a job despite his best efforts. Moreover, he had become disgusted with the world and was slowly trying to renounce it forever. One cannot help but appreciate and respect Bhuvaneshwari as one considers how she performed her duties calmly and steadily in that terrible situation. When we discuss the master's relationship with Narendra, we shall tell the reader more about his family's distressing circumstances. Instead of elaborating on this topic here, we shall now tell the reader about Narendra's second and third visits to Dakshineswar.
Yeah, Narendranath felt for his mother. Even he begged some money from the king of Khetri. And he was ever grateful to the king of the Khetri that time, because he used to help. And before that, even M used to help Narendra's family silently and regularly. So Narendra was very much indebted to M and whosoever helped his family. But the thing is, in difficult situation, one should not leave hope. Rather, one should be resilient, because it helps us to increase the power to forbear. Difficult situations are helpful in this regard. And a poet, Hindi poet said, "Sukh ke mathe seal pare, jo naam hriday se jaye. Balihari ve din dukh ke, jab pal pal naam rata." When we are happy, when we are in happy days, we forget God. But when we are in distress, then only we repeat God's name again and again, every moment. Therefore, it looks like it's very unpleasant. But those are the days when our inherent qualities, inherent strength is expressed, is manifested. So we find in the life of Bhuvaneshwari, and later we see in the life of Narendranath also, at least two or three times it happened that Narendranath was hungry. He did not eat for about 3 days, and he fell unconscious because of hunger. But he never deviated from the goal of his life. And it is natural that his mother's life also influenced him to be resilient and to go forward in his goal of life. So we have completed this chapter. Now we are in chapter 4, fourth chapter. Narendra's second and third visits to the master. After stating the influence of the family members on Narendranath, now the interaction with Sri Ramakrishna. Go ahead.
1. The reason Narendra delayed his second visit to the master, even though he considered him to be a true lover of God. When individuals endowed with self-reliance and steadfast goals see greatness in others, they acknowledge it without hesitation and rejoice in their hearts. And if they meet a great soul who possesses an overwhelming majesty, they consider this deeply and their minds become amazed and enchanted for a time. But this cannot distract them from their goal and induce them to imitate that great soul. The followers of such a one do not show the effects of their teacher's influence immediately, For that to happen, a long association, intimate companionship, and a bond of love are required. Narendra was in that situation after his first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineswar. Although Swami, were you going to say something? I think you're muted.
We call it Guru Shishya Parampara. It is long association that is helpful for flourishing spiritual qualities. It is not family traits. It is not even in DNA, though it is some seeds are there, but seeds require proper environment. That is why we need to cultivate a field, remove all the limiting agents, and then it should be irrigated. Also, it should be manured. Then only fruits, crops come to existence. Therefore, when a person goes to spiritual teacher, it is not that immediately things happen. It is long association, constant maneuvering, correction of any faults. These are essential things. That is why in India we have a wonderful tradition. It is called Guru Griha Vas. Students used to stay with teachers. They used to see the teacher day in and day out. And that is why great characters were born. And it is because of that influence. It's not an accident. Rather, it is the influence of our teacher. That is why we need to come regularly. We need to ask questions wherever there is doubt. And it's long process. It does not happen quickly. We have this ailment for ages, for births together, and we never know how long we are suffering from this ignorance. Therefore, when the disease is chronic, the treatment also should be long drawn. It's not a tablet is taken and all the ills are removed. No, it requires long treatment. That is why constant interaction with Guru is very essential. And the tradition of Guru Grihavas, staying with the Guru, is a wonderful remedy. Then great characters were formed. So here we find the same truth is explained here. Yes, go ahead.
Although Narendra was fascinated by and attracted to the master's wonderful renunciation and saw that his thoughts and speech were in complete harmony, he was not ready to accept the master as his life's ideal. When he returned home after his first visit to Dakshineswar, he frequently thought about the master's unique character and behavior, but he indefinitely put off fulfilling his promise to visit again and concentrated on his regular activities. The reason for this postponement was probably that the influence of his Western education had led him to believe that the master was a monomaniac. In addition, he was busy with his meditation practice and college studies, as well as his daily music lessons and physical exercises. Apart from all this, Narendra was following the ideal of the Brahmo Samaj and was forming study and prayer groups in different neighborhoods of Calcutta for the mental and spiritual improvement of his friends. So it is not surprising that Narendra's numerous activities buried all thoughts of visiting Dakshineswar in his mind for a few weeks. But although he was preoccupied with his studies and his busy daily schedule, his memory and devotion to truth would urge him from time to time to keep his promise to visit Dakshineswar by himself. So one day, about a month after his first visit, Narendra returned to Dakshineswar alone and on foot. He later described this second visit to Dakshineswar to us. We shall now share it with the reader.
Now, one thing in spiritual matters is very important. First, there are three things. One is called abhavana. We don't think about spiritual ideals. Naturally, we may enjoy this world and we have no doubt about it. But in spiritual matters, first, we do not have thought about it. It is called abhavana. We do not have that natural tendency to think about it. It is very rare that naturally we think about spiritual matters. So abhavana, then called asambhavana. Sometimes we hear, but all the doubts come. Is it possible? Mentally, say, no, it is not possible. So asambhavana, that means we have doubt of this spiritual truth. And not only this, we have viparita bhavana, opposing thoughts. It is not truth, rather the truth is the other way. That is why constant interaction with Guru is important. First, to hear about it, so that at least we are one with scriptures and Guru. And then doubts will come. When the idea comes that it is not possible, asambhavana, then Guru will tell why it is possible. And this is the only truth. And he also will remove all the opposing thoughts, doubting thoughts. So these three things are there. First, abhavana, not thinking about spiritual thoughts. And when we think about spiritual thoughts, we have this inherent idea that it's not possible. We thought about God. But as soon as we go out of a class, we say, the God idea is all rubbish. This world is real. Though in the class we talk about that this world is not real. But as soon as we end the class, this idea comes that this world is real and God is unreal. So, asambhavana and viparita bhavana, not only God is not real, this world is real. So these are the things which will come to a seeker. And then one has to remove by the help of the teacher, the Guru. And that is why naturally Narendranath was drawn to Sri Ramakrishna. Yes, go ahead.
2. Narendra's second visit, his wonderful experience through the Master's power. Narendra said, I had no idea that the Dakshineswar temple was so far from Calcutta because I had been there only once before, and that was by carriage. I used to visit Dasharati Sanyal, Satkari Lahiri, and other friends at Baranagar and thought that Rasmani's temple garden was somewhere near their houses. But this time it seemed as if the journey would never end, however far I walked. After asking many people the way, I arrived at Dakshineswar at last and went straight to the Master's room. I found him sitting, deep in meditation, on the smaller bed that stands beside the bigger one. There was no one with him. When he saw me, he joyfully called me to him and made me sit down on one end of the bed. He was in an ecstatic mood. He muttered something to himself that I couldn't understand, looked hard at me, and then arose and approached me. I thought we were about to have another crazy scene. Scarcely had that thought passed through my mind when he placed his right foot on my body. Immediately, I had a wonderful experience. My eyes were wide open, and I saw that everything in the room, including the walls themselves, was rapidly whirling around me and receding. At the same time, it seemed to me that my consciousness of self, together with the entire universe, was about to vanish into a vast, all-devouring void. This destruction of my self-consciousness seemed to me the same thing as death. Terrified, I felt death right before me, very close. Unable to control myself, I cried out loudly, "Ah, what are you doing to me? Don't you know I have parents at home?" When the master heard this, he gave a loud laugh. Then he touched my chest with his hand and said, "All right, let it stop now. It needn't be done all at once. It will happen in its own good time." To my amazement, the extraordinary vision vanished as suddenly as it had come. I returned to my normal state and saw things inside and outside the room standing as still as before.
So now this is very important incident, but before that, whatever we love, we want to have it immediately. But it depends on, it is difficulty that to increase our love for that object. So when he was walking towards Dakshineswar, he found that it is extraordinarily away. It's far away what he thought about it. So it is because he was eagerly wishing to meet Sri Ramakrishna, and he was not ready to spend time. That is why he thought it's far away from Kolkata. So it is about 5 miles, not that far away also. But for him, because he was eager to meet him, even that 5 miles were far away, as it were. So this is one factor. And secondly, Sri Ramakrishna thought that to give that experience, because he was a fit instrument for spiritual dissemination, spiritual teachings, dissemination of spiritual teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. So he wanted to impart him the highest ideal then and there. But Narendranath was not ready for it. So when Sri Ramakrishna touched his chest by his feet, or 1 foot, immediately he saw this concrete world was melting away. It was revolving first, and gradually it was melting. So Sri Ramakrishna wanted to give the experience of that unity, but the inherent truth behind this multiplicity. But he was not ready. That is why he cried out, "What are you doing? I have my parents at home." Then Sri Ramakrishna laughed and said, okay, it will happen in course of time. It shows that even Narendranath had to undergo some training to understand this. Similarly, we also must undergo some training, otherwise we won't understand. We'll think that this world is an amazing place here, many things to eat, drink, and be merry. But it is not this. It has inherent truth that is to be experienced, that is to be realized in one's life. So we are to get ready for that. If we are not ready, it is we are to blame and nobody else. So in the life of Narendranath, we find the preparation that happened by the will of God. It is to show us that we also undergo such training, such transformative training so that this truth is realized, that this world, though seemingly concrete, but it is not. It melts away when one experiences that truth. So this is what we learn from the life of Narendranath. So we'll stop here because we don't have time today. It is time to stop. But it's a great life. If someone wants to progress in spiritual life, this is the life one should read and try to understand the intricacy and the truth behind it. And then one should inculcate these qualities in one's life. So it is great life, and we are really grateful to the author of this book. Because of his narration, his way of presentation, we come to know that what are essential characteristics and how that those characteristics can be inculcated in one's life. By understanding this and then performing in our own lives. So we pray to God so that such situation, such opportunities come to our lives also. We say our prayer. Any question, anything?
So Swami Vivekananda met Sri Ramakrishna when both his parents were still alive.
Yes. Nothing, no?
Any more questions? Okay, nothing from YouTube also.
Okay. So very good. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare Om Tatsat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Namaste, Swami.
Nam Swamiji.
Namaste, namaste, Hari Om.
Swamiji.
Namaste. Namaste, Hari Om.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you.
Jai. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma.